What's up, friends? This is Viotek's 34-inch ultra-wide gaming monitor. If you're new to ultra-wides, I'm hoping that this video will help you out. If you're experienced with ultra-wides, we may need you to jump in and clear up some things that I get wrong or share your opinion in the comments. Okay, 144 Hertz refresh rate, aimed at gamers. 3440 by 1440 resolution, so it's Quad HD. You get effectively 1.5 27-inch Quad HD displays. That's one of the great things about ultra-wides. Contrast ratio is 4000 to 1 millisecond response time, and an LED backlight with VA panel. This does support both NVIDIA and AMD's version of adaptive sync, so FreeSync and G-Sync. I wish AMD called it Async, because you have Async and G-Sync. That'd be great. 21:9 aspect ratio, and it is a curved display. Now, this is not a very heavy display, so when we get to the cons, we're going to talk about what you just witnessed. All right, I/O, 2 HDMI, 2 DisplayPort, no USB-C Thunderbolt Alt Display. That doesn't exist here. Okay, let's talk about the pros and cons, who this is for. We'll do a tour of the menu system, a tour of the device itself, and we'll wrap it up. Pros and cons. $430 gets you into the ultra-wide world with a good display, a display that has supported me for work as well, which is mostly browsing, a browser, Outlook, Teams, Signal, which isn't for work, that's for fun. And in fact, let me just show you. All right, so I use Fancy Zones, and it's part of the Power Toys suite. So I can grab a window, I can hold down Shift, and I've created these 4 zones. You can create more than 4 zones and resize them and reposition them as you'd like using Microsoft Power Toys. So in Zone 1, I would have Signal. Zone 2 is Teams. Zone 3 is the Windows Phone Link app, I think it's called, the one that synchronizes with Samsung phones. And then in Zone 4, I'd have Outlook. But what I could do with this is just drop that there and then grab a Word window and go like that, or I can move it and put it here, right? So you get, for productivity, an ultra wide is awesome, especially at Quad HD or higher, because you get more pixel density. So not only does it look really good, but you can just fit more crap on the screen, right? Which is really awesome. Now, in addition to work, I also used it for gaming, right? Because I do that kind of stuff here. And primarily recently, okay, I tested a few games. I had to, right? It's part of the review process. But I've been playing Trek to Yomi. I don't know if you guys have ever played Trek to Yomi. It's awesome. Now, Trek to Yomi, it's a Japanese themed video game. It's a side scroller. It's all black and white with like the film grain that you would see in older movies, and has this Western kind of vibe to it, like a, Kurosawa movie or Ghost of Tsushima. It's very cool. It's a side scroller. So to have, Quad HD support, 3440 by 1440 in the game, and this nice rich color, that especially with the blacks and the grayscale, the game looked awesome. And I preferred it on this 34-inch over my 27-inch IPS, which is that way, out of frame. That 27-inch IPS also ran me like $550 on sale. I think it's normally $700. This guy is $430. That's full retail. You can probably get it 10% off, 15% off from time to time at Best Buy or Amazon, as they have sales periodically. Now that you sort of understand what I like about it, I gotta tell you what I dislike about it. And it really comes down to 2 things. The first is it's not a very sturdy base, but there is a solution for this. So, I have it as tightly connected as possible. It's a very simple assembly process. And even still, like the slightest amount of movement on my desk, even me just using my mouse, which is harder for you to see in the video, I imagine, it causes this sucker to wobble. And it's definitely unfortunate, but the solution is to Vesa Mount it. So it's a 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter Vesa Mount support, which I think is just Vesa. It's like standard Vesa. But anyway, you can mount it to your wall, you can mount it to your desk with an arm, and I think that's going to suit you better because it should be less wobbly for sure. So unfortunately, that's my biggest issue. Now, the second thing is it doesn't support USB-C Alt Display. I'd really like that because I do have a MacBook that I like to plug into my IPS, and sometimes I just have my desktop tower connected to one monitor and then the Mac connected to the other monitor. I'll work on them side by side. Not for any practical reason, just because I'm a nerd, and so I kind of like to have them both going on at the same time, and I don't like my laptop just sitting there not being used. Totally a problem, totally my problem, not related to this review at all. But anyway, I should also mention it's HDR10 supported, but as I've experienced, maybe you have as well, with other monitors, HDR and Windows are not fun. Like you turn on HDR in Windows, you turn on HDR on the monitor, and all of a sudden everything's washed out. So you think you really have to be observing HDR content in order for the HDR to work. So for example, with my 27-inch, I'll turn on HDR when I'm playing a game. I think it's HDR 400 on that one. So if I'm playing a game, I turn on the HDR if I remember, and then when I'm working, I don't. And so I've left it off on this one when I'm working, which is what I spend most of my time doing, and I get really rich color representation, very deep blacks. The gradients aren't quite as broad as I would like, but I'm not actually a monitor snob. I do just wish, I guess this is the third con, that this were brighter. And I played with the brightness settings, and I'll show you the on-screen display in a moment. I'm not good at this stuff. I tried it through the NVIDIA control panel, I tried it natively on the device itself, and I just keep messing it up, going back to default and then tweaking it again. So there hopefully is a guide out there somewhere where somebody said, like, if you use it for this purpose and if these are your standards, then adjust the settings that way, but I haven't found anything like that. So when you're in the ultra-wide world, so when it comes down to who this is for, one of the cool things about this is you can get kind of minimal. I know it's a giant display relative to maybe what you're used to, like a 24-inch or a 27-inch, but you can actually minimalize, right? Because you can run this as a single monitor and not really lose all that much if you're used to having two monitors that are 27-inch. So one of the great things about the ultra-wides is that you'll get your keyboard and your mouse, right? And you'll center them and center your body to the monitor. And then you still will have this peripheral. And this additional screen real estate is going to wrap around you, like a little wrapper. So you get to focus on what you want, and then also have a little more if you want that. And then from a gaming perspective, not all games support ultra-wides, but ultra-wide is becoming more and more popular. I mentioned this is $430. There are other manufacturers with similar specifications out there, or other manufacturers who have made monitors with similar specifications out there, Gigabyte, for example, or Samsung. And they're a little more expensive than this one for sure, but anyhow, it's becoming more and more widely adopted to see these ultra-wides. And it's definitely not as common as like a straight up 27-inch 1080p or something, but it's growing in popularity. And I think that you're going to see as games come out, especially games that aren't made by, say, an indie developer who doesn't have as much support, they're going to produce an ultra-wide specification. So you're going to be able to play your games and not get a bunch of black bars or anything like that. Okay, so with that out of the way, what I'd like to do next is show you the on-screen display, the menu system, and then give you a tour of the actual device, and that'll be it. So thanks for sticking around so far. Let's get to the menu system. So now down at the bottom, we have 5 different buttons. We have power, E, which I think is exit, an up arrow, a down arrow for navigating the menu system, and then M, which I believe is for menu. So pressing menu, we can now go directly into game mode, eco mode, a color mode, or just exit or power off rather. So what I'm going to do is go to the home button, which is going to bring me to the broader menu system. Okay, so now we're in the menu system, and you'll see that it retains the same icons I showed you at the bottom. So you can scroll through these with your input sources. There is no automatic detection, so you got to deliberately choose the right one, or the one that you want, I should say. Now, you can adjust the brightness, the black levels, the contrast. These are the default settings like I mentioned earlier. I just couldn't quite figure out how to get it the way I wanted it, which would just be brighter. Otherwise, the colors look really, really good. And hopefully they're coming across in this camera. Now, there's also color settings, gamma, picture mode. Let's go ahead and dive into that. I press the menu button. It takes me one level deeper, and then I can scroll through. Now with the picture mode, there are some defaults or pre-configured settings, photo, movie, game, etc. I've kept it on standard. If I press the E button, it takes me back one level, and I can go down again. Adjust my color temperature. You'll see options like warm and cool or user. There's a blue light feature as well. So I've got it on 0 for now because I don't really use it all that much. Hue and saturation. We can go further down to picture quality settings. Now I did change the defaults here. I turned on response time, noise reduction, and super resolution because I didn't know what they were. I wanted to mess with them, and I frankly cannot tell a difference. With response time for sure, but super resolution, noise reduction felt fine to me either way. It just didn't really make a difference. There's this dynamic luminous control. Now, when I turn this on, the contrast and the brightness will adjust on their own. but I didn't like what they were doing, so I turned them off. And then this MPRT, I don't know what this is. And I didn't like it when I turned it on, so I kept it off. The display obviously didn't mess with this. Audio for, audio, just kept it off. The speakers are not good. Multi-window display support. So I can come in here, I can do a picture-in-picture, so 2 different sources, which is awesome. And I've shown that to you folks before in my Think Vision review. Having picture-in-picture is really cool. If I wanted to, I can connect my laptop and my desktop and away I go. And then there's the on-screen display settings itself, so changing your language. I don't suggest you change your language unless you know multiple languages and you just prefer one. But like once you do it, it's like, how the heck do I change it back to my native language? Anyway, you can adjust the transparency and the position and all that fun stuff. And other. Now, other is where we can turn on adaptive sync. Right here. Just giving you an idea of how long it takes to come back. Okay. Come on, baby. Don't let me down. Okay, and then you can also turn on HDR, which, as I mentioned, I didn't like the way the HDR looked. It's a Windows problem, so off we go. All right, folks, so this is the back of the monitor, a very nice plastic, just ABS, black, not fingerprinty. So far, not very dusty either. There is a red light ring that comes across here that currently is disabled because I unplugged everything. But anyhow, there's a red light here. It's not so bright that it in any way interrupts your workflow, even at nighttime. I didn't even see the light. I've totally forgot that it was there. So you do have a backlight here that's red. Now, I mentioned the arm being loose. You can kind of see the weak point right here. There's nothing that you can do about it, right? You screw it in, you assemble it, and then it is what it is. So the Vesa mount happens behind the scenes here. That's where you're going to want to take this off, put your mount in there, and then you should be good to go. One of the thoughtful things about this display that I really like, let me actually just point this downward for you. There we go. Occurs right down here. So cable management it's a fun thing. So it's hard to see, but right down here, there's an opening, and that's where you'd plug in through your, let's say, power display port, and then you can run the cable through here and then out the back, and back there, so that your cables are kind of hidden. So some monitors I've seen implemented where you run the wires through here, or they have a more elaborate system like the Razer Raptor, where they actually embrace that there are wires and they change the color, and anyway, it's I guess like a waterfall, but anyway, this is just simple. You plug in, you tuck out, and you hide. Now, I/O. There is a back panel cover that you put right here, and this panel cover will allow you to further hide those cables if you wanted to. And then lastly, there's a headphone mount. So you put that right there, then you take your headphones, drop them right off. So I typically put my headphones here anyway, on my monitors. So it's like Viotek knew that people do that, which is cool. I thought I was alone, and off you go. So, like I mentioned, assembly was very easy, and the only thing I would change really is that Vesa mount. So this monitor at $430, it's a great deal. It's a good monitor that I think you'll like, especially if you're new to the world of ultrawides. If I had my druthers and I could do anything I want, I'd probably go a little bit bigger, and I would try out that quantum dot display, but probably ultimately I'd end up back at IPS. So for Viotek, a company that you may not be very familiar with, don't be turned off by the brand. I really like this product, and I've reviewed their monitors in the past. I think about 4 or 5 years ago, and this is a huge step up from the 27-inch monitor I reviewed of theirs many, many years ago. So props to Viotek, and thank you, Viotek, for sending this over for review. And folks, I hope you found this helpful. I'm new to ultrawides. I'm new to, actually that's the only thing I'm new to in this scenario. So if you know more and you'd like to share it, please do. Trying to make this more of a community thing, not just Joe talks and everyone listens. So please, join us on Locals. You can comment there, drop your comments here on YouTube. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Cheers.